Ruchem Aboim B'Shem Hashem. Shem Irgen Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's shir from Yakov's as Mishlita on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, Halachos and Minhagim. Dr. Yitzchak is sponsoring a shir called Irgen Shir Torah 718-851-8651 and email ist@yeshivanet.com. Harav Smith.
The truth is that every time we discuss halacha, we have to try to be perfect. Halacha is the Dvar Hashem. But especially on Rosh Hashanah, when we talk about following halacha, Rosh Hashanah, the whole days are days of Basher Husham. We have to do things correctly. And over the years, I was collecting a number of shilas about the second day of Rosh Hashanah. For example, someone had a shaila: if he was yoytze the mitzvah of shofar on the second day, does he have to blow it? Does he have to hit tkias again? Is it a safek deraisa? Is safek derabanan? A person asked me, he wanted to take pain relief, wanted to take Tylenol on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And he knows that on Yom Tov Sheni you're allowed to. Is any difference regarding the second day of Rosh Hashanah? Someone asked me recently, I guess he never knew differently, since he was a child, he knows that on the second day of Rosh Hashanah night, he takes all the minim, the simanim, like the first night. And then he heard in a shir that some don't do it, that he couldn't believe it. Do you have to take the simanim the second night or not? And we'll soon see a host of other questions. What's the shayla? We know we're zeicha to have 5 days of Yom Tov Sheni throughout the year. Don't forget, we have second day of Sukkot and Chutz La'aretz. We have Simchas Torah. We have the second day Pesach. We have Achan Shel Pesach. We have the second day Shavuos. Eretz Yisrael doesn't have Yom Tov Sheni, but we do. So once we have Yom Tov Sheni, why don't we say, if Yom Tov Sheni has this and this halacha, hu adin, the second day of Rosh Hashanah? But the truth is, as we will see, that there is a big difference between Yom Tov Sheni and the second day of Rosh Hashanah. I want to be ma'is meidah when I say from now on Yom Tov Sheni. I only mean the 5 days of Yom Tov Sheni, because Rosh Hashanah is in a category for itself. Now, how do I know that? Well, it's simple. Because in Eretz Yisrael, there is no Yom Tov Sheni. But in Eretz Yisrael, they do have the second day Rosh Hashanah. So obviously, there's a difference, a major difference between Yom Tov Sheni, the 5 times you have it in the Gimel Regalim, and the second day Rosh Hashanah. What is the difference? So I'll make a very long story short. And again, here too, I'm going to use one example throughout this morning's share, and that is Yom Tov is Tuesday and Wednesday, like it is this year. Rosh Hashanah is Tuesday, Wednesday, Sukkot, and of course, Shmini Atzeres. Now, in the Torah, let's be very clear, there is no Yom Tov Sheni. There's no 2 days Rosh Hashanah, there's no second Yom Tov. If someone says there's a Yom Tov Sheni deraisa, he's probably oiva bal toisim. So where did the Yom Tov Sheni come from? So it was basically a logistical problem. They were Mekadesh, the Chodesh al Piriyah. They had to have Bezdin coming to Eidim, they had to have Eidim coming to Bezdin. They had to go through the procedure without saying it's Bezdin saying it's Rosh Chodesh. It wasn't Rosh Chodesh. Now here's the problem. You know, today we live in a small world and we can't even begin to relate to this problem. Because today what happens in Eretz Yisrael, you could know within they say for a joke, when Rav Shach would sneeze in Panovich, people in America said Gesundheit, because there was such a great, communication. Everybody knew what was going on in Eretz Yisrael. But you think about how big the world was in those days. There was no communication, no phones. The only way to tell people in Chutz La'aretz when Rosh Chodesh was when someone got on a horse and buggy and he traveled. Now, what did he do to get to an ocean? Travel the ocean. So, Avada, Sukkot is Tes Vav Tishrei. True. But when is Rosh Chodesh? If Rosh Chodesh was on Tuesday, so then Sukkot is on Tuesday. If Rosh Chodesh was Wednesday, Sukkot is on Wednesday. So they had this built-in problem. Of course they wanted to keep Yom Tov B'zman. But what was the date? If you don't know when Rosh Chodesh was, because you lived in Chutz La'aretz, you don't know when Yom Tov was. So basically they had to keep 2 days al Safir. Maybe Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. The same is true regarding Shmini Atzeres and all of Yom Tov Sheni Shel Goliath. And that's how Yom Tov Sheni evolved. And those days it was absolutely necessary. Like the mitzvah of Dalet Minim, and sitting in the sukkah, and all the mitzvahs. Pesach also. Now, the question is, today we have a calendar, and we know exactly when Yom Tov is. It's Tuesday, not Wednesday. Why do we keep 2 days Yom Tov? Says the Gemara, minig aviseinu biyadeinu. Now, the truth is, the word minig has to be defined more accurately. It's not like a minig that on Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, we have 2 kugels, which is a heilige minig, and I don't minimize them. But this is a minig that has a tremendous impact. This minig allows us to keep Yom Tov 2 days. Now, nothing wrong with having an extra Suda. I forgive you. But do we wear tefillin on Isru Chag? I mean, on the second day Shavuos, which is really Isru Chag? We say the davening of Yom Tov. We make kiddush of Yom Tov. In Eretz Yisrael, it's no such Yom Tov. And today there's no such Yom Tov. Says the Shilas Yaivitz in Chuvas Kuf Sam Baches, Chas v'shalom, to say it's just a minig, it's a Torah Shlema, and he says, mamash, these points, we don't wear tefillah on Yom Tov Sheni, we make kiddush, we daven, a suffix mila bizmana, we push it off, we're playing around with mila bizmana, we put someone in chayrim, then he's mezalzel on Yom Tov Sheni. And that's why we're going to say the word minig avesenu, because that's the Gemara says, but it's much more than a regular minig. So Mezalman in the Chuvas Mincha Shleim Yutes Dalit, he says Chalil, to think that when you say Kiddush, Tes Vav Tishrei, that's the real Kiddush. Tes Zayin is just a minig. He says Chas v'Shalom. To be Yoitze Kiddush on Tes Vav, you have to say Kiddush on Tes Vav and Tes Zayin. It's 2 halves of a whole. And that's why the Shulchan Aruch, who's very protective of Yom Tov Sheni, and is worried about just this problem of Zilzul, the Mechaber says, if someone's mezalzel Yom Tov Sheni, they put him in chayrim. Now, just for the record, historically, you should know this, that when the Reformer and Conservative tried to destroy authentic Yiddishkeit, their first address was to abolish Yom Tov Sheni. Because it's ridiculous, we don't need it, it's not necessary, and maybe they were even from and said, what about tefillin? And that's why the Chassam Sofer and the Tshuva and Archaim Kuf Mem Hey, he says, don't be makel in anything regarding Yom Tov Sheni, because that's where the Reform and Conservative are wreaking havoc in Klal Yisrael. So that's why it's a very unique Yom Tov Sheni that really there was no such thing. It's only a minig, but it has a very great importance regarding all dinim. But now we understand why there is no Yom Tov Sheni in Eretz Yisrael. Because even then, they didn't need Yom Tov Sheni. Because they found out, when it came Sukkot or Pesach, they found out exactly when Rosh Chodesh was. Because Eretz Yisrael is geographically pretty small, and the traveling and the system they had to notify people in Eretz Yisrael, they found out. So even though Bnei Brak is quite a distance from Yishalayim, but they found out in time for Yom Tov. Okay, the emphasis Shavuos is unique, because Shavuos is the 6th of the month. Obviously they had enough time, and Bechlal, the same Tshuva in the Chassam Sofer, in Archaim Kuf Mem Hey, he wonders, why do you have to have a Yom Tov Sheni of Shavuos even there in Chutz La'aretz? It's not totally in the calendar day. Forget about it, just count 49 days, and the 50th day will be Shavuos. So that's why Yom Tov Sheni of Shavuos has a different identity to it. But at the end of the day, we understand very well why we have Yom Tov Sheni in Chutz La'aretz and not in Eretz Yisrael, because it was never necessary. Now we understand very well why on Punkt Rosh Hashanah you have in Eretz Yisrael 2 days like Chutz La'aretz. There's no Yom Tov Sheni. Eretz is Zil Basatayna. Because in Eretz Yisrael, they didn't know when Rosh Chodesh was until a few days later. But which Yom Tov happens to fall out on Rosh Chodesh? Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah had the same problem even in Eretz Yisrael, even in cities that were close to the Sanhedrin, to the Bezdin, because it took time to find out when Rosh Chodesh was. And that's why even then they had 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Again, Rosh Hashanah is only 1 day, Al Pi Torah. But logistically, they had the same problem like in Chutz La'aretz, they had to keep 2 days. Now the emphasis, the Poskim add a little more, because the Mishnah Daf Lamed Amud Beis in Rosh Hashanah, speaking about Rosh Hashanah, says that really they were Makabel Eidus until Mincha, let's say Tuesday. Rosh Chodesh was either Tuesday or Wednesday, they will be Kabul Eidos until Mincha. But once, and even beyond Mincha, as long as they found out within the day. But then there's a problem with the shear. So they masakin, if Eidim come after Mincha, even though they could testify, forget about it. They made both days Rosh Chodesh. They kept today and tomorrow as Rosh Hashanah. So what does that mean? Originally, there was a mitzvah of 2 days. So that's why L'maisa in Eretz Yisrael, even today, like it was then, they kept 2 days Rosh Hashanah. That's the Mechaber in Tov Reish Aleph Siv Beis. Af Eretz Yisrael Oisem Rosh Hashanah Shnei Yom. We'll soon see if Taka there are 2 days Rosh Chodesh. We'll soon see a very big nafkamina. Now L'maisa, just to give you a little more of a understanding, the Rashi and Be'er Davav, we'll soon see in what context. Rashi is Rosh Hashanah Hareim Kiyoim Aruch Ushneim Kodesh. The Poskim, the Taz use a lashon Yom Arichta, but what's the point? The point is very simple. In Chutz La'aretz, Yom Tov Sheni is a minig. In Eretz, but Rosh Hashanah, Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz is a different identity. It always was 2 days. So whether you call it Yom Arichta or Kedusha Achas, but L'maisa Rosh Hashanah is a whole different mitzias than Yom Tov Sheni of Goliath. And that's why we understand that we cannot compare Rosh Hashanah 2 days to Yom Tov Sheni. And that's why we're going to be careful. Yom Tov Sheni, I mean the 5 Yom Tov Sheni. Rosh Hashanah, we're going to call it 2 days, the second day Rosh Hashanah. Okay, now let us apply this L'maisa, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I did, because it's one simple aside, that's the rest of the Shir. The Mishnah says in Be'er Daf Beis, and every child knows it, it's Halach in Shulchan Aruch, Tafkuf, Yud Gimel Aleph, Be'er Shenolda B'Yom Tov is muktzah, you can't even touch it. As I stated in the Mishnah, you shouldn't touch it, and the place can wonder why you can't even touch it, but anyhow, but Be'er Shenolda B'Yom Tov, not only you can't eat it, you can't even touch it. Now, that means, if you have a beya that was hatched on Tuesday, Tes Vav Tishrei, it is muktzah the whole day. The question is, what about Wednesday, Tes Zayin Tishrei, the second day of Sukkot? Are you allowed to enjoy the egg? So we would say, well, it's Yom Tov. But Zok the Mechaba, in Tafkuf Yud Gimel Hey, based on a Gemara in Beya Dav Dalad Amid Beis, Beya Shenolda B'Rishon is Muteres B'Sheni. Why? It's a Yom Tov. So the teretz is that really there's only 1 day Yom Tov. Don't forget, that's the fact. Second day is really weekday, but al tzminig. So therefore, reasons the Gemara and the Mechaba, Memanav Shach, that's the lashon of Rashi, the Chad Mina Yuchaylu, Memanav Shach Sharia. You can't have 2 days Yom Tov. So the first day is Yom Tov, right? Second day is Chayil. So Be'er Shenolda on Tesvav Tishrei is Mutter Tezayin Tishrei. Now, of course, we have to add, why is there no Sveika, why is there no Zilzul Yom Tov? Teretz is, you're not broadcasting. You had a Be'er that was born that was hatched on Tuesday, you could eat it on Wednesday. So you're allowed to be realistic, especially in those days, they didn't have too much food, they needed the egg, they used it. Now I'm going to ask you a simple question. Be'er Shenolda, this Tuesday, on Rosh Hashanah, is it mutter the second day of Rosh Hashanah? So wondering, what's the shayla? We just said Yom Tov Sheni is mutter. Chas v'shalom. Zok the same Gemara and the same Mechaba, but a Be'er Shenolda on Rosh Hashanah first day is also the second day. Why? Because this is not just Kodesh or Chayil. This always was Kodesh. Shneim Kodesh. Yom Arichta. So just like a Be'er Shenolda on Monday night, Sukkot is also Tuesday because it's 1 day. Rosh Hashanah is 1 long day. So Be'er Shenolda on Tuesday this year will be also Wednesday as well. 2 weeks later, Be'er Shenolda on Tesvav Tishrei is Mutter on Tezayin. Simple, basic halacha based on our Yesod. But this once again highlights the great difference between Rosh Hashanah, Yom Tov Sheni, second day, or Yom Tov Sheni, Shel Goliyos. And that's why the Shulchan Aruch says another halacha, which is very easy to understand. Let's say you have Friday, like Shavuos, it happens often. Shavuos is Friday and Shabbos. So Shabbos, let's say a Be'er Shenolda on Friday, the first day Shavuos, can you enjoy it on Shabbos, which is Yom Tov Sheni Shel Shavuos? The answer is no. Why not? Because here, forget about Yom Tov Sheni, here it's Shabbos, and Shabbos is Kedusha. So Mechaber says if it's Friday and then Shabbos, or like we have often, the first day Pesach is Shabbos and then Sunday, then you can't be Mekel. Why? Not because Lamaisa of it is Yom Tov Sheni, but since you have the Kedusha of Shabbos together with Yom Tov, both are Kodesh. Both are Kodesh. You can't be Mekel in Be'ez Shenolda b'Shabbos. But vice we could do much, much better. Let me tell you an unbelievable Mishnah that gives us an even clearer insight into the whole idea of Yom Tov Sheni. Now, let's talk about a moment Erev Techumen. Now, Erev Techumen is very big sugya, but I'm going to tell you one shaila. We'll call it ABC. Okay, all you have to know is ABC. I live in B. Okay, B is in between A and C, and both are within the Tchum. So I could go to A, because it's less than 2,000 amas. I could go to C. But let's say I live in A, okay, and I want to go to C. Well, it's out of bounds, it's out of my Tchum. But I have to go visit my Rebbe or my parents for our mitzvah. So what do? I put down an A of Tchumen in B, okay? So now I relocated to B. I could go to A or to C. Fine. Now, Lamaisa, let's say it's Yom Tov. Tes Vav Erev Sukkot this year. I want to go Tuesday to visit my parents in C, but the problem is I want to go on Wednesday, the second day Yom Tov, to visit my Rebbeim. So I want to go both places, but the mice it's out of the Tchum. So the Mishnah in Eruvin Daf Lamed Chesam and Aleph, no problem. You make two Eruvin. You put one in B, okay, and you put one, go the other direction. Again, you're in A, which also happens to be Aleph. So Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. You want to go to Gimel to visit your Rebbeim. So you put down two Eruvin. One you put in B, and one you put in Beis. So now you're covered, and you go to both. Does that work? You can, on Shabbos, on one day Shabbos, you can't go in different directions. You have to make up your mind, either going west or east. So how could you put two Eruvin? It's like the Mishnah, what's your problem? It's 2 different days. One day you're relocated to B, and the second day you relocated to Beis. Beautiful. 2 days is 2 Eruvin. And that's exactly what the Mishnah says, and the Shulchan Aruch quotes this Lalacha in Tov Tezayim Sif Aleph. You could make 2 Eruvin because it's 2 different days. No stira. No. Now I'll ask you the $1 million question. Let's say you have the same Shaila this Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday you want to daven in your Shiva or by your Rav. Wednesday you want to daven in your regular shul. And they're both out of the Tchum. So what are you doing? So the Chayyur will say the same thing. 2 days Rosh Hashanah, 2 days Yom Tov, I'll make 2 Eruvin. Zok the Mishnah and Zok the Mechaber, nothing doing. Rosh Hashanah is Yom Arichta, it's 1 day. 1 day you make up your mind. You want to go west? Fine. Go visit your parents? Fine. But you can't go the other direction. So here we see Midin HaMishnah. This cloud, this major difference. 2 days Yom Tov is 2 days Kipshuta. Lakula even to make 2 different Eruvin. But when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, only it's 1 day and you can't make this kunz. So you have to make up your mind in which direction you're going, and that's it. In fact, here we see again when it's Yom Tov going into Shabbos, like Shavuos, you can't make this 2-day trick. Why? Because this is mamish 1 kedusha, and basically, I'm sorry, forget this. You could make this because the mice it's 2 different days. This is Friday, Yom Tov, and this is Shabbos, so you can make the same kunz, and it works perfectly. Now I'm going to ask you an even bigger question that's extremely nageya. Let's talk about this year, Tuesday and Wednesday, okay? And one of the women, anyhow, the Suda finishes very late, and she wants to visit her parents, and the parents are not well, so she walks quite a distance. It's quite all within the Tchum, that's not a problem. But Lamaisa, by the time she comes home, it's going to be very late into the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and the food is not ready. So, Chacham Eina B'Raisha, she wants to cook on Tuesday, Rosh Hashanah, for Tuesday night, which is Wednesday. Are you allowed to cook on Rosh Hashanah the first day for the second day, or carry a machzah first day to second day? But let's talk about a more significant shayla. You want to cook on Tuesday for Wednesday. So you're wondering, what's the shayla? Don't we know it's a Meferish, a Mechabed, Shulchan Aruch? In fact, the Mechabed devoted a whole siman, Tavkuf Gimel, Shlei Lahachin Miyam Tov Chaverei. So if you can't cook on Tes Vav Tishrei on Sukkot for the second day, why should you be allowed to cook on Rosh Hashanah, first day to the second day? However, we have a redeeming factor. Since Rosh Hashanah is Yom Arichta, just like you could cook on Monday night for Tuesday because it's one day, so why can you cook on the first day of Rosh Hashanah for the second day? And that's what the Bir Hagra in Tavkuf Gimel Sif Katan Vav says based on the Shitas HaRambam. That the Rambam seems to say Yom Arichta works l'chumra and l'kula. And indeed you're allowed to prepare on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, for Rosh Hashanah on Yom Wednesday. However, the Mechaber says clearly not like that. Mechaber says you're not allowed to prepare afilu b'shnei yomim shel Rosh Hashanah. Why not? Yom Arichta, Zok the Magen Avram, and Taz Yisoid Gadol. Avada, we say Yom Arichta, it's one day. That's only lahachmir and not lahakol. Did you notice which halachis we use Yom Arichta? We use it on Beis Shenolda to be machmir. We use it in Erev Tchumim to be machmir. But you want to say to be mekel and cook Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah for the second day? That we don't say. Now, Lamaisa, I want to tell you, it's important to mention this. We see this very clearly that Rosh Hashanah, even though it's very different for Lagabe Halachos, it is in Eretz Yisrael, but Lamaisa to go and be mekel and cook on Tuesday for Wednesday, don't forget, Midaraisa is only Tuesday. There's no Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah second day. We needed it because of a problem. But Lamaisa, the supreme day is the first day. How could you go and cook on the first day for the second day? In other words, I understand. This Rosh Hashanah Wednesday is a much bigger Kedusha than Sukkot Wednesday. True. But don't forget, Tuesday is still bigger than Wednesday. Tuesday is the Raisa, and Wednesday is the Rabbanan. So Avad the Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah second day is more than Yom Tov Sheni. But it still doesn't compare to the first day of Rosh Hashanah. So now we have hopefully a better insight, and let us apply this to the numerous shayla. And I'll start with a beautiful shayla. Let's talk about when Yom Tov is what we call a 3-day Yom Tov. In other words, we have Thursday and Friday and Shabbos. It happens on Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, and Shmini Atzeret. Okay. Now, when you have such a setup, you have to make an Erev Tavshilin. To cook Friday for Shabbos, you need an Erev Tavshilin. And the same is Grad again when Shavuos is Friday and Shabbos, you have to make an Erev Tavshilin. Okay. L'maisa, when someone forgot to make an Erev Tavshilin, he's in trouble. The halacha, you're not allowed to cook without an Erev Tavshilin. So there's a term relying on the Rav. But there's one interesting het that the Mechaber says in Tavkov Chav Zayin, Siv Chabeis, based on Gemara Beya Davav. And it's an unbelievable einfal. He forgot to make an Erev Tavshilin, he's supposed to make it on Wednesday. Now it's Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, he's in trouble. If remembered any time Thursday, let him be creative and take an Erev Tavshilin material and make an Erev Mimanasha. Listen to his chap. If today is really Yom Tiv, Thursday, we're talking about Thursday, the first day Sukkot, so tomorrow, Friday is Chayil. I'm allowed to cook on Friday for Shabbos, so I'm good. I mean, it's Chayil Amayid, but it's Chayil. Fine. Let's say really Thursday is not the Yom Tiv, Friday is. So Thursday's Erev Yom Tiv. Oh, I'm making Erev Teshila, I'm on schedule. I'm very good. As I state in Shulchan Aruch, another major kula with the Yom Tov Sheni Shel Goli is you're allowed to make an Erev Tavshila, and you look at Mr. Brewer, believe it or not, some sheets hold you even make a bracha because you're doing all you can. Now the question is, let's say the same shayla happened not on Sukkot, 2 weeks earlier on Rosh Hashanah. You forgot to make an Erev Tavshila on Wednesday. Now it's Thursday and it's a bitter. You didn't make an Erev Tavshilin. Can you make the same chap, same Tnai, Memanashach? So Zakt Rashi, Zakt Gemara, no. Why? Zakt Rashi, Yoim Aruch Ushneim, Kodesh, beautiful. You can't make an Erev Tavshilin if it's one long day. If it's 2 days distinctly Gesundheit. And that's why Lamaisa, when someone forgot on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, he's in trouble. Hopefully he can rely on the Rav, and we'll leave that to ask the Rav, because that's a different sugya. But Lamaisa, we see from the Erev Tavshilin a dramatic difference between Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golius. It works 5 times a year, but not on Rosh Hashanah, because it's Yomah Arichta, it's one Kedusha Achaz. Now, the question that we mentioned earlier, are you allowed to cook on the first day Rosh Hashanah to the second? Or, more commonly, if you daven the first day in one shul and second day in a different shul, can you carry on your machzah? L'chari, you make an achana first day for the second. So many people have the approach that they use a machzah at home the first day, fine. But let's say it's not. Are you allowed to prepare first day Rosh Hashanah for the second day? Whether it's cooking or carrying a machzah, or when you went to Tashlach and you carried the machzah there, what's that to carry it home? You're not going to use it on Tuesday, it's first for Tuesday night. So as I told you, the Bir Agra points out, like the Rambam, Yom Arichta works even the Kula. And Evan Yisrael, B'Shar Yanka Fisher, has a long tshuva, very uncharacteristic, but a very long tshuva, Chelik Zayin, Chav Dalet, Tavna Ladina, he says, Mutal Avashal, Afilu Miyem Echad, Rashon Liyem Beis, Afilu Samach L'Shkiyas HaChamim. And he relies on this shita of the Gra. But I must tell you, it's a plea to rely on that. There is Rav Sternbach in Chelik Gimel, Kuf Samachay, quotes Ksav Yad of Shmuel Meltzin, who was one of the close Talmidei Hagra, and he's always quoted in the Ma'aseh, that he said, although the Piskei Hagra, which is the Talmud of the Gra, said that Lo Halacha like the Gra, you're allowed to cook first day to the second day, he writes, and the way Sternbach writes, it's Shafach Apay V'Chamasai, Chalila to say such a thing. The Goyen was not arguing on the Mechaber. The Goyen was pointing out, like the Rambam, so look, even the Kulam. But Lamaisa, Chas V'Shalom, to say that you're allowed to cook first day, the second day, again, the point is, second day Rosh Hashanah is more than a Yom Tov Sheni, but still doesn't come close to the first day. And that's why the Minhag Yisrael is like the Mechaber says, we don't prepare first day to the second, and avada not to cook. Now, again, with the machzor, so you're allowed to use a shtikal haroma. Sort of the Paiskim say, use it on the first day to make kiddush or bench or learn mishnayos. The tashlich might be a different heta. If you can't carry it on, what do you do with it? Leave it there on the grass. People are it's gonna get ruined, stolen. Some say soif mishum tchilasai, which is the kiddush. What I did see in the Archas Rabbeinu Beis Kuf Dalet, he says both the Stipe and the Chazon Ish, when they went to tashlich the first day, so on the way home, it was starting to get Bein Hashmashis. They would use the machzah as they're walking. They would learn mishnayos from the machzah. No, b'shas ma'aseh, if you're using it, it's fine. Now the ma'aseh, some say it's hard to say there's a soif mishum tchilasai on tashlach. Tashlach is only a minig. In fact, some don't do it on Rosh Hashanah b'chlal. They do it Seres Meitshuva and you give them midis. So the ma'aseh, Rosh Hashanah, we have to be really perfect. It's kedai to avoid any type of achana, first day, the second, of course, cooking avad is awesome, but with the machzah, try to take it home and use it properly, or use it as you're walking, and that avoids shaylas. I'll give you another simple example, but you see how this yisoid is throughout the Hilchas Yom Tov. If a guy marched into your house, I have a present for you, for your holiday, your New Year holiday, and he picked apples just for you on the first day of Yom Tov. Whether it's Yom Tov or Rosh Hashanah, he picked it on the first day. So Zok Mechab and Tov Kuf Tezvav Sif Aleph. If he did a malacha for you, you can have anah. The question is, what about Yom Tov Sheni? Let's say he brought it on the first day of Sukkot. You can't use it. Either he picked apples or he caught fish, but he did malacha, fresh malacha on the first day. So for us, Zok Mishtabura, the second day is mutter. Mamanashach. Just like Be'esh and Olda. Now the shaila is, let's say he came to your house, Happy New Year, he brought the first day of Rosh Hashanah, not the first day of Sukkot. Can you have the second day of Rosh Hashanah? Zok the Mishnah Berurah, no. Because it's Yom Arichta. And therefore we have another example, something very similar to Beis Shenolda b'Yom Tov is Muteres b'Yom Tov Sheni, but Beis Shenolda on Rosh Hashanah is also the same day. The same is true when Shabbos follows Yom Tov or vice versa. Oh, but the next question is a little more intimidating. Let's say he didn't do malacha for you. He brought you apples that he picked before holiday, he says so, and you know you trust him, because there's no payers that could be picked on the Yom Tov, whatever the story is, but he brought him chutz l'tchum. So now the shaila is, first day you can't use it because chutz l'tchum. Can you enjoy it the second day of Yom Tov? So avad on second day of Yom Tov you're allowed to, just like Beis Shenolda. But here we find a kiddush in Shulchan Aruch Tav Kuf Tes Vav Ches that you're allowed to have hana from these payers that were chutz l'tchum, even on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, and even on Shabbos after Yom Tov, or vice versa. Why is that? Ayat Yom Arichta. So the Torah explained, and the Taz quotes this, Avad, you have to treat Rosh Hashanah like one long day. But like here's only a question of knas. You didn't do malacha. He did it. He didn't do malacha. He just brought it chutz l'tchum. So azoi vaid, we could say that even Rosh Hashanah is mutter. Now Lamaisa, the Paiskim wonder what's the chiluk, but apparently it's not a violation of Zilzul Rosh Hashanah. So this is one exceptional case that if he brought a chutz l'tchum, it's mutter the second day. If he picked it first day, it's asa on second day Rosh Hashanah, and only on Yom Tov is it mutter. Now another interesting halacha, basically the Mechaber says this, and we have to understand this. We don't differentiate between Yom Tov Rishon and Yom Tov Sheni, period. Shaloi l'zalzim. But the Gemara does say in Be'ah Davav that there's two chalukim between Yom Tov Rishon and Yom Tov Sheni. And that is, number one, when a person has a mechush ba'alma, that's the way the Paiskim explained. He's not sick. When someone's sick, he takes care of himself. But he has a mech, he has a headache, a toothache, a minor burn, chapped skin, chapped lips. He's not sick. But he's not even chanafel mishka, but he's uncomfortable. So on Shabbos or Yom Tov, that's the Mechab and Shin Chav Ches Sif Aleph, we don't take pain relief. But the Gemara says, and the Mechaber says this in Tov Tzadik Vav Beis, but Lagabe Mechush Ba'alma, this comfort, Yom Tov Sheni, you could be mekel and take pain relief. Why? Because human suffering, even though it's not chayli, but he's mitzvah. So the one major difference between Yom Tov Rishon and Sheni is we don't take pain relief on the first day Yom Tov, but the second day, if you have a headache, indigestion, whatever it is, you could take necessary pain relief. Again, medicine is always mutter because you need it. Now, the question is, what about taking pain relief on Wednesday, the second day Rosh Hashanah? So that the Mechab's Meferish. You're allowed to take it on all Yom Tov Sheni, chutz me Yom Tov Shel Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. Why? Kiddush achas. Now, Lamaisa, there are those that hold Bechlal, and this is, we once gave a share about this. Why is there ever an Issa on medication, pain relief on Yom Tov? Yom Tov is not the Chaymer of Shabbos, but Lamaisa is not the minig. We don't take medication, we don't take pain relief on the first day Yom Tov, but the second day, Avada is mutter, but not on Yom Tov, the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Now, a different chiddush, and this is also halach l'maisa, which is not in that Gemara, but that is l'maisa. We quite spoke punk last week that mi'ikidin we're allowed to make allowed to make a levaya on Yom Tov Rishon Aydei Akum and Yom Tov Sheni even Aydei Yisrael. That's the ikidin. Now, l'maisa. This we mentioned last week. Moshe and others says it brings too much zilzul and Yom Tov. But let's talk about when the minig was they made levayis in the little shtetl. They made levayis Yom Tov Sheni, and as I state in Shulchan Aruch Tavkov Chavav, you're allowed to make a levaya on Yom Tov Sheni. But here's the chiddush regarding Rosh Hashanah. You're allowed to be mekel on the second day of Rosh Hashanah, even though it's not Yom Tov Sheni. It's Yom Arichta. But the Mokim Kvoid HaMeis, you're allowed to make a Levaya Yom Tov Sheni. I'm sorry, Levaya on second day Rosh Hashanah. To do what the previous Eruv $'Zachaynu L'Bracha had a Levaya on Yom Tov Sheni, but it was done Kalacha. I heard from someone that was there. There were 4 Yidden that accompanied the body to the basic Chayim. It was only done exactly what was necessary. There was no extra Chilul Yom Tov. So Lamaisa, so we have two coolers regarding second day Rosh Hashanah, pain relief, and Kfura, again, but those that don't make it on any Yom Tiv, or Yom Tiv Sheni, Avad Rosh Hashanah would not be different. Now Lamaisa, I'll give you another example, but again, once you have the Yisayid, it flows naturally. The Ramah in the end of Tav Kuf Hey says if a guy milked the cow on Yom Tiv, which is really asa for us, I mean he can do it for himself, but if he does it for us, it's the Issa Mafarik, which is us on Yom Tiv. So you can't have another whole day of Yom Tiv. But the second day, you're allowed to be Meiko. Rosh Hashanah second day, no such kula. So why? This is another example of something very similar to Beis Shenol the Yom Tiv, mutter the second day. But Beis Shenol the Rosh Hashanah the first day, that's both days. So that's why milking a cow or any other halacha when it's negeya to Yom Tov Rishon, Yom Tov Sheni, it might be mutter, but not the second day Rosh Hashanah. Now, another beautiful nafkamina is the halacha of making kiddush the second night of Rosh Hashanah. Do you need to have a peri chadash that justifies a shechianu? So let me tell you very clearly. On every other Yom Tov Sheni, we don't need a fruit. We make a shechianu on every Yom Tov Sheni, of course, except Shvi Shal Pesach and Achad Shal Pesach. But the three Yomim Tovim Shal Golius, Yom Tov Sheni Shal Golius, we make a shechianu, we make a shechianu without a fruit. The Ruach says if someone takes a fruit on the second day of Sukkot, or Simchas Torah, or the second day Pesach, he's making a toyas. So why do we have to take a fruit all of a sudden when it comes to second day Rosh Hashanah? So I'll tell you, the emes is that's why the sheet of the Goyin, Ma'aser Rav, similar ratio, like many other paiskim, why take a shechianu fruit? The Yom Tiv, it's a new Yom Tiv, it's the second day of Rosh Hashanah. In fact, the Ma'aser Rav tells a story that someone decided to be nice to the Goyin, and he brought him a Yom Tov gift. On the first day Yom Tov, he brought him a peri chadash. So the Goyin who didn't need the peri chadash, he says, "Oh, now I'm going to do din Gemara. Haraya peri chadash mevarach shechianu." So he tried to make the Rebbe a little too more from that he wanted to be, and he said, "I'll show you. You don't need it. You don't need it for the second night. I make it the first night." Oh. But the truth is, our problem is even more deep, because you look in the Rishonim, in the Torah in Taf Reish. Some hold on the second night you don't make a shechianu at all, because it's yom Arichta. So you don't make a shechianu in the middle of the day. So what's that? Where's our minhag coming from? Adrav. Since some hold you don't make on the second night because it's part of the first day, but we want to make a shechianu because l'maisa it's two different days. The first day is the Rai, second day is the Rabbanon. So really we can make a shechianu because it's a new day midrabanan. But Eliezer says, just to be careful, because some don't make a shechianu, we get a peri chadash. And that's what the Torah, he discusses it at length. He says, Lamaisa, some don't make it all, but he says, don't forget, we kept 2 days, even when Be'edim came and Mincha L'mayla, like the Mishnah says. In fact, I saw the Rivash in Tov Kuf Hey in the Chuvas, he says in Eretz Yisrael, when he didn't come at all the first day, so they kept 2 days. So obviously you need 2 days Yom Tov. So Lamaisa, our minhag is like the Shulchan Aruch says, the Peri Chadash is an extra. Really, we don't need it because the first day is the Rai, second is the Rabbanon. But to make it safe, we make a shechianu fruit. But here it's extremely important to mention, you're not making the shechianu on the fruit. That would be a hefsik. Imagine someone gets a new suit that covered Shabbos. So he wants to make a very special shechianu on it. So he decides, right after I finish kiddush, before I drink the wine, I'm going to make a shechianu. Rabbi Yid, what are you doing? That's a hefsik. So Dr. Shlomo Zalman in the Chuvas Mincha Shlomo Sim and Chaf, people have to understand the shechianu is going on the Yom Tiv. I have it on the fruit also, the Yesa says. But really, if someone didn't have a chance to buy a shechianu fruit and Yom Tiv Sheni is here, he make a shechianu on the Yom Tiv. And that's why Nashim have a problem. Because Nashim, that light before the husband makes Kiddush, earlier, what are you going to do? Put down a Peri Chadash. But you're not eating the Peri Chadash. So they might want a new suit to wear, new clothing, fine. But Lamaisa, the women, if they can't make the shechianu on the fruit, they make it on the Yom Tiv. If there is no shechianu fruit, you make it on the Yom Tiv. Now, this another Shechianu question, interesting, is the Shechianu on the second day regarding shofar. Let me remind you, we blow shofar Tuesday and Wednesday. Does the Baal Tekeya make a Shechianu on the second day before he blows? So the emes is that this might be different, because the Shechianu by kiddush is on the Yom Tiv. So it's two different Yomim Tovim, two Shechianus. But the Shechianu on the shofar is on the mitzvah. And we blew the first day, Tuesday, it was wonderful mitzvah. We makayim the mitzvah. So why are you making another Shechianu? Just like we don't make a Shechianu on the Daled Minim on the second day Sukkot, why is shofar different? And Taka the Mechaber Shita, it's interesting the Mechaber says it in Tov Reish, Siv Gimel, if the first day Rosh Hashanah comes out on Shabbos, so then you make a Shechianu on Sunday. Is mashma, not mashma. But the Mechaber holds clearly, if you have a Tuesday and Wednesday like this year, when do you make a Shechianu? Tuesday and not Wednesday. And that's the minig of Svardim Ada Yom Hazeh. However, the Ramah says that the minig is to make it on both days, but the Baal Tekeya, if possible, should have a Beged Chodosh, so the Shechianu goes on the Beged Chodosh. Again, it's not Ma'akiv, and again, he's not making it on the Beged Chodosh. That would be a terrible hefsik between Baruch of Shofar and Shofar. It's the Yesa says to make us more comfortable, but it's definitely not Ma'akiv. But Mr. Brewer points out, quoting Magen Avram, those that take a Shechianu fruit on the second day of Yom Tiv, that's a toyis. That makes no sense. Now, question. A person put down an Erev Techumen on Yom Tiv to go visit his Rebbe, whatever it is. He put down a piece of challah, and he knows he was there in the morning, but on the way home, he passed by, and it was gone. A bear must have had the Simchas Yom Tiv and ate it up. So now he has an Erev he put for 2 days, and Mechel Erev. So the halacha is, I'm sorry to tell you, but you can't go the second day with that Erev, because there's no Erev for the second day. Zok the Mishnah and Tav Tezai and Sif Kot and Yud Aleph. But the good news is that on Yom Tiv, second day Rosh Hashanah, he could go. Why could he go? Here we're going to say Yom Arichta, and believe it or not, a shtickle l'kul as well. L'mais, it's 1 day. If it's 1 day, we could assume that you had it for this day. It was good this day. It's good the whole day. The whole day happens to be 20 or 48 hours. Okay. Next question is, like we said, perfect early Simchas Yom Tov table talk. Something you could zevach mishpacha, talk about the family. The following very important but a very, very common question that's not discussed in earlier poskim. Let's talk about a regular Yom Tov Sheni. Okay. Let's talk about Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday and Wednesday, and we're talking about Sukkot or Pesach, okay? Fine. Now, the Isha, the woman, wants to start cooking on Tuesday evening, for the Tuesday night Suda, right? So the question is, does she have to say a Baruch HaMavdil between Tuesday and Wednesday, Yom Tov Rishon, Yom Tov Sheni? So you're all looking at me, where's that coming from? Havdalah on Yom Tiv? I know you make, if you have Shabbos going into Yom Tiv, Sunday, you make Havdalah between Shabbos and Yom Tiv. But Havdalah between first day and second day, I never heard of this, unheard of. So I also never heard of it, but Lamaisa, the Mishnah Berurah, in Siman Reish Sadik Tes, quotes in El Yerabah and says the following: if someone, man or woman, wants to make hachana, bring wine, on Tuesday evening for Tuesday night, which is second day Yom Tiv, so even though he didn't yet daven Ma'ariv, or didn't yet make Kiddush, so really his location might be first day, but since it's only achana, he can make that achana without davening Ma'ariv, or saying Kiddush, or signaling Adkan Yom Aleph, and that was Yom Beis. As I state, Mr. Berurah quoting El Yerabah. I looked at El Yerabah, that's what he says. Oh. So, the Heintige Poskim, since is not an earlier Poskim, Rav Sternbuch and Chayil Gimel, Simon Kuf Nun, the Chazoyin Avadyan, Yom Neroyim, Amad Kuf Pei Beis, the Piskei Teshuvos has a nice discussion as well. The Kinyan Torah also, Chayil Ches, Simon Lamed, they say, look again. You going from first day to the second, you have to do something in between. So typically, us men, we daven Ma'ariv. Oh, Ma'ariv means it's a new day. And if you made Kiddush, certainly it's a new day. But the Noshim that want to do Malacha on Tuesday evening, in between First day Sukkot, and second day, what changes? Why? When do they change tracks from first day to second day? And perhaps they should make a Baruch HaMavdil. Now, of course, you can't make Baruch HaMavdil Kodesh L'Chol Chas V'Shalom. You make Baruch HaMavdil Kodesh L'Kodesh. Now, Lamaisa, the Pella is that we know there's no halacha of electricity in Shulchan Aruch. They didn't have it, but they had Yom Tov Sheni, and every detail of Yom Tov Sheni is accounted for in Gemara and Poskim. Why doesn't it say this? I saw the Zalman Yom Tov Sheni Kachasai. It's Perik Aleph Ha'arach Chav Gimel. Says this is something that we never heard of. It doesn't sound right. And Taka, many Poskim say this is unfounded. And Lamaisa, even if you look at Mr. Brewer again, you'll notice that he quotes El Rabbah. He doesn't say that you should make a Baruch HaMavdil. He says if you daven Ma'ariv or make kiddush, so it's a good idea. And you're not doing anything drastic. So it's a benign act. You made a Ma'ariv, so you're allowed to do Havdalah, but it doesn't say you're allowed to do Malacha. But he doesn't say if you didn't, you have to make Havdalah. So Lamaisa is something that might make sense because first day is Yom Tov, second day is Chayil. Whoa, maybe you have to have some type of separation. But our Zaydas didn't do it, our Babas didn't do it, we don't do it. But you have to understand, Taka, why Taka not? Maybe, probably the simple teretz is, would be a terrible Zilzal Yom Tov. Imagine you make Havdalah between the first day and second day, so why are you making Kiddush? You just said it's Ois Yom Tov. So to make it between the Kedushas, Yom Tov Rishon, Yom Tov Sheni, it's just too pronounced of a Zilzal Yom Tov. Adarabah, if you have better teretz, please tell me. But one thing I was happy that I realized that even if you have a problem, the problem is only on Yom Tov Sheni. The second day Rosh Hashanah, there is no Havamina of anything. Because that's a Yomah Arichta that goes straight. Yomah Arichta, you don't make Havdalah in the middle of the day. And I found the Kinyan Torah Chelik Ches Melamed has this very chilek that Yom Tov, the second day Rosh Hashanah, is never bechlal this pickbook of doing something between the first day and the second day. Question, another common question. Someone blew shofar, and when he finished, he started having a sveikus. Now, he's not a nervant person, he has a suffix. Let's talk about a legitimate suffix shofar on the second day, or in the Geir to a Makri. When do you tell the blower, the Baltakeya, to repeat? First day, we try to do it right, because everything is the raisa. I mean, at least whatever is the raisa. But the second day, is there any room for leniency? Because maybe the second day is only a sveika, the Rabbanim. So this is Mamish Al Sugya. But the Chiddush is that the Gedolei HaPois Mashem Epiyim Anu Chayim, and that is the Rav the Magen Avram and Sif Katan Gimel Tov Kuf Pei Hey, the Rav and Sif Zayin, Mr. Brewer and Sif Hey, all say if you have a suffix shayfa on the second day, you could be mekel al tzveika d'Rabbanan. Suffix first day, suffix d'Raisa. Suffix second day, you could be mekel. Now that's a chiddush. Because if we understand Rosh Hashanah is Yom Arich, the Kedusha Achas, why don't we treat it like a Sveika D'Oraisa? But it's not such a big Chiddush. Avada, it's second day Rosh Hashanah is much more chum on the second day of Sukkot. But it's still not the first day. If someone says after D'Oraisa 2 days Rosh Hashanah, he's even Bal Taisif. Nothing to talk about. It's more than second day's Yom Tiv. But it's still not the first day. Now, Lamaisa, the El Yerabah and Sif Katan Hay, feels a suffix second day should be treated like a suffix first day. And the Bajana Rav in Das Torah Siv Beis, he's Mitzayin, the Radvaz, that seems to say the same thing as well. Now, I did see the Piskei Teshuvos points out correctly that the Mishnah Berurah himself in Tov Kuf Pei Tes, Siv Katan Vav, and the Sharatzi in Tov Kuf Pei Ches, Siv Katan Yud, also assumes a suffix shayfa second day is like the first day. So, even the Makilam, even Mr. Brewer was Makel, he's basically seems not to be inconsistent. So I think the right achra is when a person blew a tekiah, let's say about the Makri hears the tekiah, this tekiah was okay, but it could be better. So you should go over again. Why not? Why not? If you could change it, why not change it? Why not make it perfect and like the first day? But let's say someone woke up afterwards, he found a crack in the shofar, maybe it happened before he blew, after, he doesn't know. Once you blew, you can be makel. But this would be the insight. We like to do things perfectly. If the Baal Tekiah blew something that was questionable, don't just go weiter, blow it over again. A beautiful question, which is also negeya, but it also brings out the point from a different angle. If you notice in the Musaf, we say, Ves Musvei Yoim HaZikaron. Now, Why Musvei Loshin Rabbim? It's very pashut. We have two Musafim on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Chodesh, which it is, and Rosh Hashanah. Wonderful. And that's the Mechaba and the Ramah, Tavkuf Tzadik Aleph, Siv Gimel, and Siv Beis, Ramah and Siv Beis, says you have to say Musvei Yoim Hazikar. Now, the big question is, when you get to the second day Rosh Hashanah, do you all say Musvei Yoim Hazikar? Because look at the calendar. Wednesday, second day Rosh Hashanah, happens to be Beis Tishrei. Beis Tishrei is not Rosh Chodesh. So in Chuvas on August Chelik Beis Reish Ayin, he quotes B'Shem Reb Chaim Briska that Taka held on the second day Rosh Hashanah, don't say Musvei, say Musaf. Pashit. Now, however, the minig is Mechabas Beferes Begam B'Yom Sheni Yoima Es Musvei Loshin Rabbim. The question is why? Reb Chaim is doch gerecht. Now I do know that there are 2 days Rosh Chodesh, but that's Lamed and Aleph. But they make Aleph and Beis Lo Re'inu V'Lo Shamanu. Reb Chaim is chayr, right? The teretz has to be, if you're going to say Musaf on the second day, a zilzul in the Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah. Now Reb Chaim held, because of his sensitivity to emes, it's not emes, it's not Rosh Chodesh. But Lamaisa, just like we make a shechianu and we treat the second day with great reverence, so we have to do the same Lagabi Rosh Chodesh, Lagabi Musvei. Now Lamaisa, it could be the chiluk is, if you look at it as both kedusha, you could say, well, the second day is kedusha, but not Rosh Chodesh, like Chaim said. But if you consider it a Yom Arichta mamish, then it's Yom Arichta. So if the first day is Rosh Chodesh, so was the second half of the first day. But Lamaisa, I want to be clear, the minig is we do say Musvei on the second day as well, because again, it shows the Rosh Hashanah is Yom Arichta, even Lagabi, this nuance of Tefillah. Now, an interesting question is Milah Bismana is Doicha Shabbos and Yom even Yom Kippur. A Safik Milah Bismana, a baby was born Ben Hashmashos, so we don't do it on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Can we make a Safik Milah Bismana on Yom Tov Sheni, which is only Yom Tov Sheni, quote unquote? So the Mechaber says no. Yom Tov Sheni is still like Yom Tov. Very, very emphatic that Yom Tov Sheni is like the first. But many later Poskim, like Yehuda, Gedolei Poskim say no. To push off Milah Bisman, you can make it on Yom Tov Sheni. Another similar situation, a C-section, a Yoitza Doifen baby is of either regular birth, but it's not, that Milah of that baby is not Doicha Shabbos or Yom Tov. Yom Tov Sheni, Mechabel Shita says, Hu Adin. Poskim would say, the minig is you can make it when Milah Bismana of a Yoitza Doifen on Yom Tov Sheni. What's the halacha regarding second day Rosh Hashanah? So for us it's very pashut. For that you say don't play games. Suffix Rosh Hashanah, second day Rosh Hashanah, like the first day, both the suffix man and the C-section will have to be delayed till after Rosh Hashanah. Pashut to treat it with the kedusha that it deserves. My last group of questions is a bit out of my range, but I must tell you we have to know what to do. It's halacha l'maisa, and it's really the shein kind of our sugya. And that basically is someone asked me about taking the simanim. We take it the first day, and again, we should not be mazalzel. It's 2 gemaras in Shas. It's krisus and hayriyis. It's a siman and shulchan aruch. The simanim milsa, like the Welt says. Do you take it and eat it on second night of Rosh Hashanah as well? So l'maisa, the same question is, can we sleep on the second day of Rosh Hashanah? Now, why is this a unique shaila? Tell you very simple. L'maisa, the first day we know is the Yom Hadin. When is it exactly? We don't know. I mean, the first 3 hours, it's the most Yom Hadin part of Yom Hadin, but it's the first day. Now, Yesh La'ayin, when Chazal made a second day Rosh Hashanah, did they have the jurisdiction to make it also a Yom Hadin? I saw Rav Dessler in Chelik Beis, a beautiful shmooze about Yom Tov Sheni, Rosh Hashanah. In Chelik Beis, page 74 and on, he says, Chazal could make a Yom Tov Sheni. Can they make a Yom Hadin Midrabanan? Do we have the rights to encroach on Shemayim's Yom Hadin and make a new day out of it? So that's the question. When Chazal made the second day Rosh Hashanah, is it also a Yom Hadin? Then you shouldn't be sleeping. You should be taking the simanim. If it's just a Yom Arichta in Kedusha and everything else, but not in Yom Adin, maybe there's a difference. So what I thought initially, Pesach has big kulis. It's a Leil Shimurim. Halacha. We don't say Krishma and other things. But Maseh Beferish, the same applies to the second night of Leil Seder in Chutz La'aretz Yom Tov Sheni of Pesach. So Chazal do have koiches. But it's not a raya. Maybe Leil Shemum is because of Pesach D'Rabbanan. But do we have a right to go and say when Yom Adin is? So what came to my mind is a Mateh Ephraim, a Tov Kuf Tzadik Tes, based on a Levush, and he says that the minig is to Vinsha one the other, Shana Tov, the Kasev, the whole Nusach, but not on the second night. In fact, not even at all after the first night. Why? Because we muchzik that we got the Gezar Din, the Toiva, and we're okay. But Lamaisa, first of all, I should tell you that the Taz disagrees. The Taz says, no, say it both nights. How do you know when your din was? The Buchacha, Eish Lavram says, even the Taz is Moida, that Lamaisa, simanim, we have to, explains that we have to take simanim on both nights. Why? Because just like we don't know what a person's din is. So here we have to take both simanim both nights because we need every bit of tefillah. So it's interesting that Lamaisa, we made a shtickle of a difference. We don't vinshon Shana Toiva Tikasevu, we do like the Mateh Ephraim. By simanim, we have different minhagim. So I looked further, and there's a sefer, one of the Kemanim, the Noye Katsoin Yosef, page Reish Ayin Gimel, Mut Delishin B'Yem Sheni, Do Kva Nigma Dinoi. So he's very confident, you'll out of sleep. Lidach Gisa, Rab Chaim Falaji, in Moed L'Chol Chai, Yud Beis Lamed Aleph, Ein L'Hakel, to sleep, Afil B'Yem Sheni, the Yomah Arichta, the Shneyem Shavim. It's one long 48-hour period of Yom Hadin. So Lamaisa, don't forget, we don't wear tefillin on Yom Tov Sheni, Rosh Hashanah as well, second day. We say Musvei, we just said that we know we say even Asana Toikif and Mi Yichyi Mi Yamas. But most important, and this Rav Desta quotes, I don't know, Rav Desta quotes to Zoya and Parshas Pinchas, that says that the first day is the Yom HaKasha. That's the very Chama Dikadin. For those that are Mazalzel and Kavod HaTorah, incidentally, that's considered the real enemies of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the Yom HaKashya. The second day is Yom HaRafya. Is a much easier din, and we all hope that we should be included in the Yom HaRafya. So, in other words, what it seems to me very pashut is, you think about it, it can't be that the Baruch gave us a Yom Tiv one day, but since we began to become Yidden, we had to keep 2 days. It doesn't make sense. The Tanya de Be'eliyo in Perik Lamed says when we were in Eretz Yisrael, 1 day we could keep 1 day. When we sent into Golus, no day is good. We need 2 days. What's the pnimius of this? The Baruch gave us 1 day Rosh Hashanah and 1 day Sukkot and Pesach. But since in the system it had to be, we had to keep 2 days. That was the original Ratzon Hashem. There should be 2 days. And Libi Yoimeli, Avinu Avarachman had a cheshbon. Because the Yom HaKasha the first, that's Sanaz Yom HaKasha the first day. But the Baruch wanted to give us a Dina Rafia, so he made it part of the system. It has to be 2 days Rosh Hashanah. So what is the Maskana? I'll tell you very clearly. The Maskana is, it's a 48-hour plus Yom Hadin, and any moment it could be it could be our Mishpat. I think we all know this, it's a little frightening, but we all know Mateh Ephraim, the end of Tavkuf Pei Beis. He says, Yesh b'nei Adam shenidayin Rosh Hashanah Yom Rishon, Dinkasha Sama Nidainim in Yom Sheni, and when someone suddenly starts to cry, have a pachad of Yom Adin, he should know, in that moment he's being a mishpat. So what's the point? It's Rosh Hashanah has to be perfect 48 plus hours. Taka the minig is not to sleep the second day, and Taka many do the simanim, and Taka we don't vinch someone else just because maybe respect for him. But the point is that we keep the second day, and the Mateh Ephraim says to keep the second day like the first day, and Taka in the schus that we keep the Rosh Hashanah Taka b'toikev with every bit of its kedusha both days. We should be zoich v'aksivach simatoiva. Amen. The Amen.
Shame Egan sure tell like you'll be at the kirk to Smith for today's share and I see we'll see with Taylor to all the startfilm. After Kadosh be a sikkim. Can anyone catch him to get both of the Zakis as self figure him to Mr. Shnema the night office and Sidkai Yagul Terriade. Yagul is Kadosh Meirama. Hey! Over with him, what the awesome Kadosh Shute. Hey, to make him high low basis so by God on Kadosh Mama. Hey! Yeah, I'm going to say what the Lord will not all these whatever somebody will come these days, somebody will come and also ask me about them they will start and say, you know, and the whole bunch of them in with rock with fire, the dinner we have call wish my way out of moment. Yes, from our hand to let up call it of moment. So right my way some let up call it of moment. Okay, it's the Sikkim is part of the share Arichta, it's one share.
Okay. Good commentary. Okay, just let's chaz we learned today. The main point I think is that the major difference between Yom Tov Sheni, the 5 Yom Tov Sheni Shel Goliyos, and the second day Rosh Hashanah. Basically, Minat Torah, there's one day of every Yom Tov. There is no 2-day Yom Tov at all, Minat Torah. But logistical problem, as we explained, you have to know when Rosh Chodesh was. In Chutz La'aretz, they never knew when Rosh Chodesh was, and they kept 2 days Yom Tov because at a lack of awareness of when Rosh Chodesh, 2 days Yom Tov, they didn't know when the Yom Tov was, so they kept both days. L'maisa, even though today we have a calendar, but that's minig abaseinu b'yadeinu, and it's not just a minig, it's a minig that impacts not wearing tefillin, davening Yom Tov dik, making kiddush with a bracha. Obviously, we are very confident, and as we explained from the Tanit Be'Eliyahu, it's really, the Baruch Mikara made it that it's 2 days Yom Tov are 2 halves of a whole. You can't be yoitza, kiddush, like Misham Zalman says, unless you have both nights, both days. So it's really 2 halves of a whole. In Chutz La'aretz, Eretz Yisrael never had the problem and don't need a solution. They have 1 day. But Rosh Hashanah was a problem in Eretz Yisrael as much as in Chutz La'aretz, Kemat, and many times they had 2 days. So it became a Rosh Hashanah 2-day even Eretz Yisrael. It's a yomא Aríchta, it's a kiddush achas. But basically, there is a chilik, as we saw, between the second day Rosh Hashanah and the Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golis. Be'ez Shenol, the Yom Tov is mutter the second day. Ma she'ein kein Rosh Hashanah yomא Aríchta. Erev Tchumen you could make in 2 opposite directions on 2 days Yom Tov because it's 2 different days, but not on Rosh Hashanah. Hachana on Yom Tov Sheni is also on Yom Tov Rishon. Yom Tov Sheni is also and Hu Adin Rosh Hashanah. Because Lamaisa, it's still a greater level of Kedusha first day to second day, even though it's not as dramatic as 2 days Yom Tov, but there's no Achana first day to the second day. As we explained, a person forgot to make an Erev Tevshilin, so you can make it on the first day Yom Tov with a Monashach, but on Rosh Hashanah it does not work. We don't carry from first day to second day unless you have a using at home. We try to avoid carrying the machzah or the tashlich machzah. Avada, we don't cook first day to second day. If a guy cut fruit or caught fish, so on the Yom Tov you can't use the Yom Tov Sheni. On Rosh Hashanah you can't use it on the second day Rosh Hashanah, but you can use it on Yom Tov Sheni because it's like Be'ez Shenol to be Yom Tov Muteres Bezeh. Pain relief is mutter on Yom Tov Sheni, not on Rosh Hashanah. Levaya is mutter on Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah, like Yom Tov Sheni. A guy that milked the cow is also the first day, not the second day, except for Rosh Hashanah. The שהחיינו is really, fruit is not really needed for the שהחיינו in kiddush, and if women make it on the Halachos Neiris, not on the fruit, because there's no fruit at that time. But the SSAs, we try to have a fruit, but definitely without the fruit, we make a שהחיינו on the etzem yoim, not on the fruit, on the yoim with the fruit on the background. Shofar, Sfarad don't make a שהחיינו at all, Ashkenazim do, and you try to have a beged chadash, if you could afford it every year, a new suit, but basically it's not necessary. If the Erev Tchumen was nechal on the first day, you could go the second day, Yom Tov Sheni, but not Rosh Hashanah, same concept. There's no Baruch HaMavdil between the first day and second day. Obviously it's not the minig, it's the problem of Zilzul. Safik Shaifa on Yom Sheni, you could be Mekel B'di'eved, but the Chatchila B'tshach to go back and blow again, because we do try to treat it like a Safik D'Raisa, but Miyikidin, it's mutter once you finished. We do say Musvei both days, Safik Milah B'zmano or Safik Yitzadayfin, or a real Yitzadayfin is made on the second day Yom Tov, not on second day Rosh Hashanah. The Mishpat happens to be, we don't know which part of it, it's a 48 plus hour Yom Tov that should be perfect, we don't sleep, we do things correctly, And the ik is the simanim is just a question if we can feel confident enough. But Lamaisa, it's a 2-day Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah as well. Good job. No.
I'm begging. The Rosh
No, mine.
opens it down for hundreds of years, and it's so they had one day until